The desert stretched wide and endless, like a golden sea under the sun. Heat waves danced above the sand, and the wind carried whispers of stories long forgotten. Milan walked slowly but with purpose, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He was not a wanderer without reason. He was searching for the old ruins hidden in this desert, ruins that many people had spoken of but very few had ever seen. Milan was young, but his heart was full of patience. He believed the ruins held something more than broken stones. He believed they carried wisdom, stories, and memories of people who once lived here. That thought gave him strength with every step, even when the desert tried to test him with thirst and loneliness. He carried only simple things with him, a small bag of food, a water skin, a map drawn by hand, and a book where he wrote his own notes. He was not after treasure or gold. He wanted knowledge. To him, knowledge was brighter than jewels and more powerful than weapons. As he walked, the sun began to sink lower, painting the sky with colors of orange and pink. The air cooled, and the shadows grew long. Milan stopped at a dune, letting his eyes search the land below. His heart jumped when he saw something unusual: half-buried stone pillars standing tall against the sand. They looked like the arms of an ancient world reaching out from the ground. He smiled. At last, he had found a part of the ruins. Carefully, he climbed down the dune and walked toward the pillars. The sand shifted under his feet, soft and tricky, but he kept his balance. The closer he came, the more he noticed shapes carved into the stone. Symbols, lines, and designs told silent stories. He touched the stone gently, as if greeting an old friend. "This place has waited for so long," he whispered. The air felt different here. It was calm but heavy, as if the ruins themselves were alive, holding secrets inside. Milan began to take notes in his book, copying down the symbols, trying to guess their meaning. His mind was full of curiosity. But soon, he felt something else. A presence. At first, he thought it was the wind, but then he heard light footsteps behind him. He turned quickly, holding his breath. There, standing a few steps away, was someone he did not expect to see. It was not another traveler from his land. The figure was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly under the sunset light. Eyes bright like stars looked back at him with surprise. She wore a long robe, simple yet flowing, marked with symbols similar to the ones on the stones. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The desert grew quiet, as if listening. Milan felt his heart beat faster. He had heard stories about beings from other worlds, but he never thought he would meet one. This was not a dream. The ruins were not only a place of old stones, they were a bridge between worlds. The figure tilted her head slightly, studying him with calm eyes. She did not seem afraid, only curious. Milan slowly lowered his book, showing that he carried no harm. "I am only here to learn," he said softly. His voice was steady, though inside he felt a rush of wonder. The alien scholar blinked, then stepped closer, her movements light like drifting sand. She placed a hand on one of the pillars, as if to show that she too respected the place. In that silent moment, Milan understood something: he was not alone in his search. Someone else valued these ruins just as deeply, maybe even more than he did. The sun finally dipped below the horizon, and the desert sky filled with stars. Under that vast sky, Milan and the mysterious scholar stood facing each other, two seekers brought together by the same ancient call. The journey he thought was his alone was only beginning, and now, it would be shared. The stars lit the desert sky like tiny fires, and the ruins stood quietly under their glow. Milan and the mysterious figure kept watching each other, as if both were waiting for the other to speak first. The desert wind brushed softly around them, carrying a silence that was both strange and gentle. Milan finally gathered his courage. He took a careful step forward and smiled. His voice was calm, though he felt his heart racing. "My name is Milan," he said. "I come from far across the desert. I only wish to learn from these ruins. I will not harm them." The figure studied him for a moment longer. Then, with a voice smooth as flowing water, she replied. Her words were not in his language, yet strangely, Milan felt he could understand the meaning. "I am Arya," she said. "These ruins are sacred. Many come only to take, but you speak differently." Her tone carried surprise, but not anger. Milan felt a warmth rise inside him, a quiet relief that she had not turned him away. He nodded quickly. "I do not seek treasure. I seek stories. I believe these stones carry memories. I want to listen." Arya's eyes softened. She moved closer to one of the carved pillars, running her slender hand across the designs. The symbols glowed faintly at her touch, as if the ruins recognized her. Milan's eyes widened in wonder. He had copied the symbols in his book, but he had never seen them come alive. You know their meaning?" Milan asked, unable to hide his excitement. Arya glanced at him, her lips curving into a small smile. "I study them. These symbols speak of journeys, of people who crossed stars to find new homes. They are stories of love, of loss, of hope." Milan listened carefully, his heart filling with respect. He had dreamed of this moment, but to actually hear the stories from someone who understood them, it felt like a gift. The desert night grew cooler, and the wind carried the scent of dry sand. Milan sat down near the base of a broken wall, resting his tired legs. He looked up at Arya, who still traced the stones with care. "Have you been here long?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Many moons. I travel far, as you do. But I come not only for knowledge. I come for connection. These ruins remind me of my people. They remind me that the heart remembers even when the body is far away." Her words touched something deep inside Milan. He understood the feeling of distance, of longing for meaning. He opened his book, showing her the drawings he had copied during his journey. The pages were filled with symbols, sketches of pillars, and notes written in his simple hand. Arya leaned closer to look. Her eyes brightened with interest. "You see with respect," she said softly. "Your hands are gentle, like one who listens." Milan smiled. For a moment, he forgot the loneliness of his long walk across the desert. Sitting here beside her, he felt a quiet companionship. The night stretched on, and they spoke in turns. Milan shared stories of his people, songs sung by fires, tales told by elders, the way children laughed when they played in the rain. Arya listened with wide eyes, as if each word was new treasure. In return, she shared pieces of her world, the harmony of crystal gardens, the silence of silver lakes, and the way her people believed the stars were living lights watching over them. The more they spoke, the more the distance between them seemed to fade. Human and alien, they were simply two souls sitting in the ruins, under the same sky, sharing the same wonder. At last, the night began to grow late. The desert air grew colder, and the stars shone brighter. Milan pulled his scarf tighter around his neck, while Arya wrapped her robe more closely. "You should rest," she said softly. "The desert is kind at night, but the day will test you again." Milan nodded. He laid down near the base of the wall, his bag under his head as a pillow. He looked up once more at the stars, and then at Arya, who still sat near the glowing symbols. As his eyes grew heavy, he whispered, "I thought I was alone in my search. But tonight, I feel less alone." Arya looked at him, her eyes calm and bright. "You are not alone," she answered. And with that, the desert night wrapped them in silence once more. Two seekers, once strangers, now tied by the first threads of understanding. The ruins had brought them together, and their journey was only just beginning. The desert morning arrived slowly, painting the sky with soft shades of gold. The wind carried the coolness of night away, and soon the warmth of the sun began to touch the ruins. Milan opened his eyes and sat up, brushing sand from his clothes. For a moment, he thought last night had been a dream. But then he saw Arya. She was already awake, standing near one of the broken pillars. The light of the morning sun made her robe shimmer faintly, and her eyes studied the glowing symbols with quiet focus. Milan smiled. "Good morning," he said, his voice still soft from sleep. Arya turned toward him, her expression calm but warm. "The sun here rises quickly," she replied. "It makes the ruins come alive." Milan walked over to her, curious to see what she was studying. The carvings on the pillar were more clear in daylight, the lines sharp against the stone. He pulled out his notebook and carefully copied what he saw. Arya watched him. "You draw with care," she said. He nodded. "I do not want to miss any detail. Every line has meaning, I think." She stepped closer, pointing at one of the symbols he had drawn. "This one," she explained, "means journey. But it is not only about walking across land. It also means the journey of the heart. The steps we take inside ourselves." Milan's eyes widened. "Beautiful," he whispered. He had written the symbol in his notes, but he had only guessed it was about movement. Her explanation opened a new world to him. "Teach me more," he asked eagerly. Arya gave a small smile and nodded. Together they sat on the sand, with the pillar beside them. She showed him how certain lines curved like rivers, meaning time or change. She explained how circles meant unity, and how stars carved on stone meant both hope and guidance. Milan listened closely, writing everything down. His hand moved quickly, but his mind moved faster, trying to hold on to every word. After some time, he looked up and said, "You know so much, but do you want to hear something from me? Something about humans?" Arya tilted her head, her eyes curious. "Yes," she replied. Milan drew a shape in the sand with his finger. It was a simple heart, the symbol his people used for love. "This," he said, "is very important for us. It means the center of feeling. It means care, trust, and connection." Arya studied the shape with interest. "We do not use the symbol," she said softly. "But I can feel its meaning." Milan added lines around the heart, turning it into a small design. "We share this in letters, in songs, in art. It reminds us that even when we are far apart, love can keep people close." Arya touched the drawing lightly, as if testing its truth. Her eyes softened. "It is simple, but strong. I like it." The sun climbed higher, and the desert heat began to grow. Milan and Arya moved to the shade of a fallen arch. There, they continued to share. Milan taught her simple human songs, short ones he remembered from his childhood. His voice was not perfect, but it carried warmth. Arya listened, then tried to sing the notes with him. Her voice was gentle, almost like a breeze, and together their sounds blended in the quiet ruins. In return, Arya showed him her way of marking stories. She drew symbols in the sand that connected together, like a path. When we tell stories, she explained, we walk through the symbols, step by step. Each mark is a memory. Each line is a feeling. Milan followed her hand as she drew, amazed at how much could be said without a single spoken word. It is like walking in two worlds, he said. One in the sand, and one in the mind. They laughed softly at his description, their voices echoing lightly against the stone walls. As the day passed, Milan felt something growing. It was not only knowledge he was gaining. It was a bond. Every word, every song, every symbol shared pulled them closer together. They were different in form and world, but the ruins had given them a place where differences faded. When the sun began to set again, the sky glowing with fire and purple light, Milan and Arya sat side by side on the edge of a stone step. The desert stretched wide before them, endless yet somehow less lonely now. Milan looked at her and said quietly, I thought these ruins were only about the past. But now I see, they are also about the present. About us. Arya met his gaze, her eyes deep and calm. Yes, she replied. Stories are not only remembered. They are also made. And in that golden light, Milan felt certain, their story was just beginning. The desert often changed without warning. One moment, it was calm and open, and the next, it turned into a restless sea of sand. That evening, as the sky darkened, Milan and Arya felt the wind grow stronger. It whistled between the broken walls of the ruins, carrying sharp grains of sand. Milan looked up. The stars, which had shone so clearly the night before, were hidden behind rising clouds of dust. A storm is coming, he said, concern in his voice. Arya's expression grew serious. We must move quickly, she replied. The desert storms are powerful. They can bury what stands in their path. The wind howled louder, pushing against them as they gathered their few belongings. Milan tied his scarf tightly around his face to shield from the sand, while Arya pulled her robe close and guided him toward a set of broken steps that led deeper into the ruins. Follow me, she called over the rushing air. The sandstorm struck with sudden force. Sand swirled in every direction, making it hard to see even a few steps ahead. Milan kept close to Arya, his hand gripping the strap of his bag, his other arm shielding his eyes. The desert roared, but Arya moved with calm confidence. She seemed to know hidden paths between the fallen stones, leading him toward safety. At last, she pointed to a narrow opening in the side of a collapsed wall. There, she shouted. Together, they slipped inside. The small tunnel led into a wider chamber beneath the ruins. The walls were rough but steady, and here the wind's scream softened into a distant hum. Milan let out a deep breath, brushing sand from his hair. That storm came so fast, he said, his voice filled with relief. Arya nodded, her eyes calm. The desert teaches us to be humble. It reminds us that we are small before its power. Milan sat down against the stone wall, grateful for the shelter. He pulled out his water skin and offered it to her. Arya accepted, taking a careful sip before handing it back. Their hands touched lightly, and though the moment was brief, it carried a quiet warmth. For a while, they sat in silence, listening to the storm rage outside. The chamber was dim, but Milan lit a small lantern from his bag. Its soft glow filled the space, chasing away the shadows. Arya studied the light. Your people carry fire in a glass box, she said softly. It is beautiful. Milan smiled. It is simple, but it gives comfort. The storm continued, but inside the chamber, the air felt almost peaceful. They began to talk, their voices echoing gently off the stone. Milan told Arya about how, in his home, storms brought rain that fed the earth and made fields green. He described children running into the rain with laughter, their faces full of joy. Arya listened with wonder. "Rain that gives life," she said. "Here, water is only found in hidden wells. It is precious like jewels." In return, she told him of her world's seasons, where the skies changed color and the air filled with shimmering dust that sparkled like stars. Milan imagined it with wide eyes, feeling as though he was traveling through her memories. As the storm slowly softened, Milan noticed something new. The walls of the chamber were also carved with symbols, though faint with age. He stood and brushed his hand across them, tracing the shapes. "More stories," he whispered. Arya joined him, touching the same marks. "These speak of two travelers," she explained. "They were from different lands, but they walked together. The desert tested them, yet they found strength in each other." Milan looked at her, his heart steady and full. "That sounds very familiar." For the first time, Arya laughed softly, her voice light like the wind after rain. "Perhaps the ruins are reminding us of something." The storm above grew quieter, the roar fading into gentle wind. Milan sat again, stretching his tired legs. He glanced at Arya, who sat close beside him, her eyes calm in the lantern's glow. "Thank you," he said. "Without you, I would have been lost out there." She shook her head gently. "No. You kept the light. Without it, this place would have been dark. We both gave something." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the silence between them spoke louder than words. The desert had tried to push them apart, but instead, it had brought them closer. When the storm finally ended, they stepped out of the chamber together. The desert was quiet again, the sand smooth and shining under the moonlight. The ruins stood strong, and so did they. Milan looked at the stars above and whispered, "The storm was fierce, but it gave us this moment." Arya glanced at him, her eyes gentle. "Yes," she said. "The desert tests, but it also teaches." And with that, they walked side by side, ready for whatever the desert would show them next. The desert night was calm again after the storm. The sand stretched wide under a sky filled with bright stars, and the air felt cool and gentle. Milan and Arya sat together near the edge of the ruins, their lantern resting on the stone step beside them. The soft glow mixed with the silver light of the moon, giving the moment a quiet beauty. For a while, they did not speak. They simply looked at the sky, watching the stars appear one by one. The silence between them was not empty, it was peaceful, like two songs blending without words. Milan finally broke the silence. "Back in my home," he said softly, "I would sit on rooftops at night and watch the stars. I always wondered if someone out there was looking back at me. Tonight, it feels like my question is answered." Arya turned her head slightly, her eyes shining with the reflection of the stars. "And what do you see now?" she asked gently. Milan smiled, though his voice carried honesty. "I see that the stars brought me here. They brought me to these ruins, and to you." Arya lowered her gaze, her hands folding lightly in her lap. "I was afraid," she admitted quietly. "When I began my journey, I thought I would walk alone forever. I thought no one could understand my search. But when you spoke to me at the pillars, I felt something different. It was as if the ruins were telling me not to be afraid anymore." Milan felt his chest grow warm. He wanted to say more, but he held back, letting her words flow first. Arya looked up again, her voice softer. My people believe that the heart remembers. Even if we are far from home, the heart carries the light of connection. I thought that light would grow weaker the longer I traveled. But now, sitting here with you, I feel it growing stronger. Milan's breath caught in his throat. He turned toward her fully, his hand resting on the stone step between them. Arya, he said quietly, I did not expect this. I came here to learn, to copy symbols, to write stories. But with you, it feels like I am living one instead of just writing it. Arya's eyes met his. There was no need for more explanation, the meaning was clear. The silence returned, but this time it was filled with unspoken truth. Milan slowly reached out, his fingers brushing gently against hers. It was not a grand gesture, only a small touch, but it carried all the weight of what they felt. Arya did not pull away. Instead, she turned her hand slightly, letting his fingers rest in her palm. Their hands stayed together, warm and steady in the cool desert night. Above them, the stars burned bright, as if blessing the moment. Milan spoke again, his voice low but full of meaning. I want you to know. I will not leave these ruins the same man I was when I arrived. Because now, when I think of journeys, when I think of stories, I will think of you. Arya's lips curved into a soft smile. And I will remember that even in the vast desert, I was not alone. I found someone who listened, someone who cared. They stayed like that, side by side, sharing the quiet night. Sometimes they spoke of small things about the shapes of the stars, about the sound of the wind, but their hands never parted. As the night grew deeper, Milan felt a calm joy inside him, the kind that did not need loud words or big actions. It was enough to sit here, with her, knowing their hearts had spoken. The ruins around them seemed to glow faintly in the starlight, as if they too were alive, watching over this moment. The carvings of old journeys and old loves had found a new story to hold within their stones. When sleep finally came, Milan lay down with his head resting against his bag. Arya stayed close, her robe brushing lightly against his arm. Before closing his eyes, he whispered, "Thank you, Arya, for being here." Her reply was soft, like a breeze. "And thank you, Milan, for reminding me that journeys are not only walked, they are shared." The stars above shone silently, keeping their secret safe. The morning sun rose once again, filling the desert with golden light. Milan and Arya stood together near the old pillars, ready to continue their search. The storm had cleared the air, leaving the sky wide and endless above them. Arya touched the stone wall gently, her fingers tracing the carvings. "There is more here," she said softly. "The ruins hold a secret deeper inside. We must follow the path." Milan nodded, eager to see what they might find. "Then let us go together," he replied. They walked slowly through the fallen arches, moving deeper into the heart of the ruins. Sand covered much of the ground, but between the broken stones, faint steps and symbols were still visible. Milan copied them into his notebook as they walked, while Arya explained their meaning. At last, they reached a wide chamber half buried in sand. Its roof had collapsed long ago, but the walls still stood strong. In the center was a tall stone slab covered in carvings that glowed faintly in the sunlight. Milan's eyes widened. "This looks different." Arya nodded. "Yes. This is the heart of the ruins." Together, they brushed away the sand that had gathered at the base of the slab. As the carvings became clearer, the story began to reveal itself. It was not about treasure or power, it was about two figures standing side by side. One was carved with sharp, simple lines. The other was curved and flowing, unlike the first. Yet both were reaching for the same star above them. Milan's voice grew quiet. They are not the same, but they are together. Arya studied the carvings with deep eyes. This is a story of two travelers. They came from different worlds, but they met in the desert. The star above them means unity. Their bond was the true treasure. Milan felt his heart beat faster. He looked at Arya, realizing how close the story was to their own. So the ruins were not built to hide gold or jewels, he said slowly. They were built to protect this memory. To remind us that connection is the greatest gift. Arya smiled softly, her hand resting on the stone. Yes. And now we, too, are part of this story. The chamber was quiet except for the gentle sound of the wind. Milan opened his notebook and carefully copied the carvings, but this time, he did not write only with his hand. His heart guided him, knowing he was recording more than symbols, he was recording a truth he had lived. After a while, they stepped back and looked at the slab once more. The figures carved into stone seemed to glow brighter, as if the ruins themselves recognized that their story was alive again. Milan whispered, "This is the treasure people searched for, but they never understood. They looked for riches, but they missed the meaning." Arya turned to him, her eyes gentle. "But you understood, Milan. You listened. That is why the ruins opened their heart to us." They left the chamber and climbed onto a high ledge overlooking the desert. From there, the dunes stretched like waves, endless and golden. The ruins lay behind them, strong and silent, keeping the secret safe for those who came with respect. Milan took a deep breath. "I came here thinking I was only a traveler, only a student. But now, I feel as if I belong to something greater." Arya stood beside him, the wind brushing her robe gently. "And I," she said softly, "feel as if my long journey was never meant to be walked alone. The ruins guided me here, to you." Their eyes met, and in that quiet moment, the desert felt less empty, the sky less distant. They sat together on the ledge until the sun began to set, painting the world in orange and violet. The carvings in the chamber below were hidden once more by shadows, but in their hearts, the meaning remained clear. The hidden treasure was not gold, nor stone, but something far brighter. It was the bond that had grown between them, strong, gentle, and unbreakable, like the stars above. The sun rose gently over the desert, casting warm light across the ruins. Milan and Arya stood together at the edge of the high ledge, looking out over the golden dunes. The wind was calm now, carrying only the soft whispers of sand across the stones. After all they had discovered, after all they had shared, the ruins felt like a quiet home. Milan turned to Arya, his eyes reflecting the morning sky. "We have learned so much here," he said softly. "Not only about the ruins, but about each other." Arya smiled, her robe brushing lightly against the stone. "Yes," she replied. "The ruins have shown us that connection is stronger than distance, stronger than time. And that our hearts can guide us where the mind cannot." He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I do not want to leave this place," he said. "Not yet. And not without you." Arya's eyes softened, and she nodded. "I will stay," she said. "I will continue my studies here, but I will do it with you by my side. Together, we can honor these stories and create new ones." For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, letting the silence speak. The ruins behind them were ancient and silent, yet in their hearts, the stone's message had taken life, love, respect, and understanding were the true treasures. Milan smiled, feeling a calm certainty inside him. We came seeking knowledge, but we found something far greater. We found each other. Arya's hand tightened around his. And together, we will make every day meaningful, she said. They began to explore the ruins again, this time slowly, deliberately, as if every stone and carving was a friend they had not fully met. Milan showed Arya his notes, the symbols he had copied, and she explained the subtle meanings he had not noticed before. Each discovery was a shared joy, and each moment together made the desert feel smaller, friendlier, and alive. As the day went on, they walked to the highest point of the ruins, where the sun touched the horizon. The desert stretched endlessly before them, golden and silent. Milan took a deep breath. Even though this desert seems empty, he said, it holds so much life, and now it holds us. Arya looked around, then back at him. We are part of it now, she said. The ruins remember us, and the desert watches us. We will not forget, and it will not forget us. They sat together on the edge, watching the sun slowly sink. The colors of the sky reflected in Arya's eyes, and Milan felt a quiet joy that was both strong and gentle. The ruins, the desert, the stars, they had all brought them here, to this moment, and to each other. Milan spoke softly, almost as if sharing a secret. The greatest journeys are not measured in distance or time. They are measured in connection. And I feel that our journey has only begun. Arya's lips curved into a soft smile. Yes, she said. And from now on, we will walk it together. As night fell, the stars began to shine, familiar and bright, like old friends. Milan and Arya stayed on the ledge, hands clasped, hearts aligned. They did not need to speak every word, the understanding between them was deep and complete. Below, the ruins rested quietly in the desert, keeping their secrets safe. Above, the sky stretched endlessly, filled with the light of stars. And between them, human and alien, two hearts beat in harmony, proof that the greatest treasures were not carved in stone or hidden in sand, but found in the bonds we create. Milan looked at Arya one last time as the first moon rose. Thank you, he whispered. Arya's voice was calm and warm. Thank you, Milan, for walking this journey with me. Together, they turned back toward the heart of the ruins, ready to continue their exploration, their story, and their life. The desert around them was quiet, the stars above shining silently. But in their hearts, a new dawn had already begun. They were no longer travelers searching alone. They were partners, companions, and friends. And in the wide, endless desert, they had found a home not only in the ruins, but in each other.